Today's episode of Roadie Free Radio is brought to you in part by Show Pro Beard Co. Started by live audio engineer Chris Wilson, these are non-waxy, all-natural beard balms that will leave your beard soft, smooth, and nourished. Choose from a variety of natural-smelling scents and use the code ROADIE when you check out to get 20% off your entire order. That's ROADIE to get 20% off your entire order over at Show Pro Beard Co.
What's happening, roadies? This is Ken Pooch Van Druten.
This is Robert Scoville.
What's happening, roadies? This is Austin Schroeder, and you're listening to Roadie Free Radio.
What's up, roadies? My name is Larry Milburn, and this is Roadie Free Radio, your VIP pass to meet and greet the stars behind the scenes of the music and film business. All right, what's happening, roadies? Welcome back to yet another episode of Roadie Free Radio. This is episode 161. This is your host, Larry Milburn, and I am coming at you from a barn in Northwest Connecticut. How the hell are you? What's going on? What do you know? Man, what a crazy, crazy week. I feel like a roadie, even though I'm not, because I've been on the road quite a bit the last couple of weeks. A lot of gigs, a lot of filming, and just driving. A lot of drives to New Jersey, as you saw in this episode's tease. Just in and out of New Jersey a lot. I don't know what's going on down there. Just people, they got just some driving problems in that state. Okay, let's not harp on them too much. It's crazy. If you saw the barn right now, upstairs in my barn, the upstairs is kind of like our schlep area. You know, we keep our bikes there and our stuff, and it's kind of like my gear thing. It looks like, because I'm in between gigs right now, it looks like someone from B&H has projectile vomited gear all over the floor of our barn right now. If my wife saw it, she would have a heart attack. I can only describe the mayhem that's gone on up there. I'm trying to pack up to head into the city tomorrow morning for an interview with Michael Alago and Laura Davis Channon. They have been working on Michael's book together. It comes out in the next few weeks. I am so excited to have Michael on the show. Laura Davis Channon, as you guys know, was on the show last year. Great guest, and I'm super excited to see her again, and just couldn't be more thrilled to have Michael on the show talking about his incredible career, working at Elektra, signing Metallica, just all the crazy stuff that he has gone through and survived. And we'll get to him in a couple weeks. That episode will be coming out in just a couple weeks. Sit tight for that one. How are you guys doing? Did you have a good week? I hope so. We got some happy birthdays coming up, but did I tell you who today's guest is? Have I told you? Do you know who it is? It's Austin Schroeder, monitor engineer for Rage Against the Machine. Austin Schroeder. Very excited. We're going to get to him in a second. As I said, we got some happy birthdays. Alex Chase, Bruce Dans, and Hanford Pittman. Happy birthday to all of you. We also have some condolences to go out to the family of Kelly Tucker, 35-year-old front of house engineer for the bands Wilson, Bury Your Head, A Killer's Confession, and Kissing Candace. Kelly Tucker, unfortunately, left us a bit too soon. I got to give another shout out. You guys may remember last week, I mentioned that Shure Microphones was kind enough to send me a couple of things. I have used the on-camera mic. I had 2 shoot days this week. I used their new on-camera mic, the Lens Hopper VP83F, something like that. I love it. I'm already in love with the thing. It's not. I'm not going back to the road. Let's just put it that way. Keeping the Shure. That's great. But anyway, I thought that was it. They sent me that and a little interface, and I was like, cool, man. I'm good. And then another package came in the mail, and I've got the Shure MV88 Plus video kit. This is professional sound for vloggers, filmmakers, musicians, and podcasters. Hey, I check off most of those boxes. It's a mic. There's a stand. What's in this thing? There's a stand. There's a microphone. There's a phone clamp and a little bag. It's really cool. I haven't even opened the box yet. I've been so busy, but I'm very excited to test that out. Thank you again, Shure Microphones. Can't wait to jump in on that. Guys, don't forget, once again, The film Roadie My Documentary by TJ Hoffman is out. It is available. You can download it. You can watch it in your bunk while you're traveling from one gig to the next. Check it out over at roadiemydocumentary.com. TJ put a lot of heart and soul into this film. And if you head back, he is my 150th episode. So listen to that, learn more about him. Listen, would you like to learn more about live sound and mixing from someone who has been the sound engineer for some of the most popular names in music? If you're saying yes, well, let me tell you something. Mixing Music Live is an introductory course on live sound and mixing. The course was created by Michelle Pettinato, who has had a career as a touring concert sound engineer for nearly 30 years. Michelle has worked with Gwen Stefani, Goo Goo Dolls, Styx, Melissa Etheridge, Adam Lambert, and many, many more. Check out Roadie Free Radio episode 153 to hear my full interview with Michelle. But check it out. Michelle has taken all of the experience and knowledge she has gained over the years and broken it down to the essentials you need to get out there and start mixing. Now, she's given us a special offer, and registration for Mixing Music Live is only open for a limited time. It started back on February 20th, man, and it's only good until midnight of March 5th. That's only a couple days away. And right now, she's offering a 25% discount for listeners of this show, Roadie Free Radio. 25%, man, it's a good discount. Remember, February 20th until midnight, March 5th. You got to use the code ROADIE2 for a 25% discount. There's a link in the show notes. Head over, click that link, or go to mixingmusiclive.com and use the code ROADIE2, the number 2, for 25% off discount. Have you done your survey for the Tour Health Research Initiative? Have you done it? Have you taken the survey? It's 256 questions. Go take it. Do it. It's going to take you maybe an hour. You give these guys the information they need, and then they help us and help you on the road, down the road, to just have a better experience while you are touring and when you're off the road. Go to tourhealth.org and take that survey. Okay? Listen, I want to thank you guys, those of you that have hopped over into Apple Podcasts or iTunes, whatever they're calling it, and left me a review. I really, really appreciate it. It helps a lot. You've said some very nice things. You left some nice ratings. I can't thank you enough. So thank you so much for that. If you haven't done it yet, you got 2 minutes to kill. Head over there, leave the show a review. It means a lot to me. Here's a bit of news for you guys. I've always got a little something up my sleeve. Summer NAMM, Nashville. Tickets are booked. What? The tickets are booked, people. I got my flight yesterday. I'm excited. And we're doing another panel. We are resurrecting the panel from this year's Winter NAMM show, but we're going to give a little spin to it. It's going to be most of the same people. Unfortunately, Liz Shaw can't make it, so we're finding a replacement who I think you're going to be very excited about. If you are going to Summer NAMM, I will see you there. We will talk more about NAMM. It's only February, Larry. Relax. Anyway, as I mentioned, guys, today's guest is Mr. Austin Schroeder, an Iowan native. A native of Iowa? I don't know. How do you say that? He's a native Iowan. I think that's what you got. The man started playing the piano around 5 years old. His folks pushed him into doing that, and he's grateful for that. He got into playing jazz, and then he morphed into playing bass guitar, little guitar, and he's also a Full Sail graduate. We had a great chat. I got to Austin by way of a mutual friend of ours. I think we talked about it at the top of the episode here. And I'm glad that we could figure this out before he packs up and heads off on the road for 40 days and 40 nights, man, with Rage Against the Machine, one of the most anticipated tours of the year. He is also a Parnelli award-winning monitor engineer. He's got an award for doing what he does. It's pretty cool, man. You got to listen about halfway through, 3/4 of the way through the interview here. He tells a very funny tale about going to work at Clair Bros. And I got to say, that's a pivotal moment. I hit him with my time travel question at the end of the episode, and you'll see how I wrapped it around. Listen, if you are a touring tech, and you find yourself in New York, New Jersey, or DC without a production company to work for, and you're looking for a good group of people to team up with, check out Boulevard Carroll Production Services, man. They do everything from backline, rehearsal facilities, PA systems, support systems, all kinds of stuff, AV. They do the whole deal. Boulevard Carroll Productions. Check them out. As I said, with offices in New York, DC, New Jersey. I mean, in New York alone, they've got a facility that's 17,500 square feet. I'm going there tomorrow. I'm super excited. That's where I'm going to be doing the interview with Michael Alago and Laura Davis-Channon. Yeah, good spot. If you're an artist and you are coming into one of those towns and you need a rehearsal facility, this place is gorgeous. I mean, it's gorgeous. The rooms are nice and clean. Professional staff. They're just very cool folks. Head over to Boulevard Carroll. I want to thank them for not only sponsoring today's episode, but they are also sponsoring the episode with Michael Alago and Laura Davis-Channon. Have I said those two names enough? Listen, let's just get to it, because guess what? It's about 7:00 Sunday nights before this episode comes out. I've got to get up super early to catch the train to go do my interview, and I still have to pack. There's a lot of things happening. Thank you guys for tuning in this week. Here we go with Mr. Austin Schroeder.
Hit it. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie.
Totally cool, random occurrence that a friend of yours, Liz, happened to be where I was and was like, oh, my buddy Austin knows your show. You should come on the show. Have him on.
Yes. So what is your connection with Liz?
I know her present employers.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So she said that I think your wife has a, like some kind of an organic kind of food or drink sort of thing. Is that right? She's
got a boutique here in Connecticut where we are.
Cool.
And it's like home furnishings, men's, women's apparel, stuff like that. And
okay. Got it. Yeah.
And Liz's employers
nice.
shop there. And so then we've gotten to know them, and I was hanging out at their place when I was out for the NAMM show.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah, when she just started. So I hope it's working out for you, Liz.
Yeah, me too.
Right?
Yep.
It's a good gig. And talking about gigs, dude, you've got yourself in the hot seat, man. Rage Against the Machine. Now, when we were texting, I was visiting one of my old Mexican haunts, Mexicali Cantina, I think on Ventura.
Yes.
Ventura.
I know that place.
You know, is that it? Mexicali? Yeah.
Yeah.
And you and I are texting like, I got top secret shit I can't tell you about, top secret tour.
Yeah.
Is it Rage? Was it Rage at the time?
Yeah, that was it. And it was kind of just their process of kind of getting this all started, especially with not being a band for such a long time, is a little bit different. So I had to make sure to be really careful with kind of what I was saying and who I was saying it to. But now that it's all announced, and now that the wheels are turning, it's going to be a pretty bitchin' year. I'm excited.
That's amazing, dude. And you guys just announced like 40 more dates. Right?
Yes.
Something like that. So yeah, it's going to be a great year.
Yeah. When they dropped the tickets on sale last week, and I don't even think it lasted more than a few hours. They were they were gone.
Everything
the whole
was
thing.
Gone.
Yep.
So you're doing Coachella, you're doing all those.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Man. Nice. Were you a fan of Rages before all of this? Are you a bigger fan now?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
I grew up, kind of a rock and roll kind of guy. So I think it's pretty hard to not fall into Rage Against the Machine if you came up in the 90s and are into rock music, you know?
Yeah. It's funny you said you're a rock and roll guy, because one of the things I noticed about your resume, which I always find interesting with people, is to see the pattern sort of in their career.
Yeah. Yep.
And, you got Dawes on there. Great bands. Dawes, Blues Traveler, Sarah Bareilles. But not the hard shit yet. And then there's like this conscious, like, Queens of the Stone Age, Foo Fighters, Cypress Hill, Lupe Fiasco, right? And then Rancid and all this shit. How does that did you make a conscious decision? Are you just like going where the wind blows, whatever the next gig is, and it just happens to be this? I mean,
yeah, not at all. I mean, I'm pretty open-minded to whatever. I'm not like, some people they kind of go down a certain path, and that's just kind of their thing. I'm all over the place, man. And it kind of speaks to me personally as well, like what I listen to and the kind of music that I grew up on and the things that I, get into. It's all over, you know. Yeah. I've always gone through kind of weird phases where I had a few years where I went through like a big bluegrass phase and got super into it and started listening to all these obscure bluegrass artists and bands. And then I've always been into rock. I kind of went through like a hardcore metal, like super heavy mosh pit kind of listening phase. Yeah. And I played in some kind of metal bands like back in my younger days also. Mm-hmm. And yeah, man, I get into jazz and funk and I just like good music, you know? Yeah. I'm a musician. So
I just caught that. What do you play?
I grew up, I can kind of play a little bit of most things. Like I grew up playing, my mom got me into playing piano when I was pretty young, probably like 5 or 6. And so that's a pretty great gateway instrument as far as learning music technique and learning how to read music and that kind of stuff. So got doing the piano thing when I was super little, and then started learning bass guitar. And then when it got to like band time at school, I wanted to be like in the percussion squad. So I learned how to play drums, got like a little drum kit at home, and just started bashing away at that. And most of the music stuff that I've done or played in has been either me playing kind of bass or drums. Yeah. But I can kind of dabble. I can play guitar enough to get by and jam with somebody. But
that's cool.
Yeah, just kind of a little bit of everything. You know?
Yeah. And where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Iowa.
You say that like,
Yeah, it's funny because I don't meet a lot of people from Iowa, especially in the like entertainment industry, because Iowa is not really known for its entertainment business. But when I do meet people from Iowa, it's always really kind of a special, exciting thing, and they're always super cool and easy for me to get along with. Yeah. So I love meeting people from my home turf. It's always exciting. What'd
your folks do? And did they have, I mean, your mom threw you in the piano when you were 5 or 6. Did they have any musical inclinations?
Yeah. My parents are both teachers. My dad's a high school teacher, and my mom has always been kind of elementary school, middle school teacher. My mom was into music when she grew up. She always played piano. She studied piano at school. And then my dad was always kind of the sports guy. And so it was kind of a clash for me growing up, trying to go back and forth and figure out what direction I wanted to go towards. Because I went to a pretty small school. There was like 120 kids in my class. Wow. So it was just kind of one of those schools where you know everybody and you kind of do everything and take part in all of the activities. So I played all the sports like basketball, football, track, and then at the same time was in band and choir. Yeah. And so I think I've kind of figured out pretty halfway through my high school, my time in high school, probably sophomore or junior, that I was like, I'm kind of into this music thing. I think I'm gonna be like a music person and start focusing more on learning how to play instruments and just kind of figure it out and see where it leads me to.
Put your Letterman jacket aside and
exactly.
Pick up the bass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the cool part about I was the same. I was, varsity athlete and a musician and some bands in high school and whatnot, and got into theater and everything. And that is a tough line sometimes to walk, right? Because you've got you got the jock circle and you got like the creative circle, and those two sort of don't mix or traditionally haven't mixed, and you become like this bridge between people. Yeah. I always found like you know people from both sides. You're like, let's say you have two friends in both of those camps. You're like, I know if you two just hung out, you'd get along, right?
Yep.
You'd have shit in common. But that's probably, that sort of dynamic has probably helped you later swing through, because you probably knew a lot of people.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And you know how to like juggle the personalities and whatnot, and which is a great skill on the road.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had this conversation, I think yesterday, about how just kind of the dynamic of having, on a bigger tour when you have 20 or 30 adult, basically roommates, it can get kind of interesting at times, especially when you're on your, like a big kind of A-list gig, and sometimes egos get thrown in there as well. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm really lucky on this Rage tour that is getting crewed up. Everybody's, it's probably one of the more exciting crews that I've ever been on. For me, everybody's personality is awesome. Yep. There's no kind of egotistical bullshit. There's no drama. It's going to be a good time. I'm really excited.
Without giving stuff away that you're not supposed to give away and all that. Don't want you to get in trouble here, Austin. I'm just curious, like, you've got, a big band, very highly anticipated tour. You're coming into a group. I mean, you were out with Audioslave and Tom Morello, so you've got some connection there, obviously. Yep. But coming into something like this, how do you sort of prepare? And obviously there's a big, like I said, anticipation and eagerness. You're a fan and whatnot. And so just how do you like to sort of take us through like the rehearsal process in terms of getting to know them? They're rehearsing together. It's been a while, all that kind of stuff. And everybody's sort of dynamic.
Yeah. So I have quite a bit of experience with the band minus Zach, because I went and did the Prophets of Rage tour that they have done over the last few years. And then I got in pretty good with Tom and went out and did a bunch of his kind of solo projects that he would go out. So I had a pretty good understanding of the vibe from all those guys. So I kind of knew what to expect. The only thing that was a little daunting and unpredictable for me was Zach, because he doesn't really do a lot of interviews. He's kind of quiet as far as like social media and the internet goes. So it was, I had no idea what to expect, and luckily he's the coolest guy ever, and he's super awesome to work with. And, everything's been really great so far.
Yeah. It's gotta be pretty crazy. It's gotta be pretty crazy to sit there though in a rehearsal facility and hear some of these songs for the first time, like sitting, 20 feet away from them. I imagine.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, Here we go. Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me.
Yeah. It's right? Awesome. It's rock and roll, man. It's about as raw as it can get.
Everybody on in-ears?
Yeah, we're kind of, it's all wedges for the most part. Brad, the drummer, started using in-ears with the Prophets of Rage stuff. And so that's kind of, I think, what it's going to end up being.
Mostly wedges.
Wedges, side fills. And then Brad has everything that's you could possibly give him. He's got like subs. He's got wedges. He's got a Porter and Davies, like the butt kicker thing. Yeah. And then in-ears as well. So he's fully juiced. Wow. He's ready to go.
Wow. How loud is it up there? Pretty loud?
Pretty damn loud.
Yeah.
I think it's probably going to be, it's usually between like 105 to 110 up on the stage.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they like to rip the knob off big time.
Yeah. Wow, man. Wow. That's awesome. All right. So let's go back. Well, actually, no. Anything special or new you're trying out with these guys, or as you gear up for this, or?
Yeah, I'm kind of sticking to what I know. And I think sometimes it's important to not try to get too crazy with stuff, especially mixing monitors. And especially like in the beginning phases of all this, I'm not trying to overcomplicate anything. And I just want to make sure that the band is feeling good. And I want to make sure that I can kind of, get a good grasp of their vibe before I kind of start throwing little tricks and stuff in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, nothing too crazy at this point, but we'll kind of see how it goes. We still have another good month or so of rehearsals left. So
Nice.
It's kind of just been a slow evolution of everything for the most part.
What's the first gig? Coachella?
The first gig, so they have like 3 shows that they booked in, there's a show in El Paso.
They've got like Las Cruces or something.
Las Cruces. And then there's another show like outside of Phoenix that's right before Coachella, just to kind of get kind of warm up shows sort of thing. And they wanted to do border town shows as well. Yeah. Just as sort of part of the movement.
Yep. Yeah, my wife's family's got a house in Santa Fe, and we were like, maybe there's a way we can get out and drive the 4.5 or whatever the hell it is hours down.
Yeah.
See that Las Cruces show, drive back. But we're not gonna be able to make it, man. But we'll catch another one. We'll get to another one.
Yeah. There'll be plenty of them.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so you're 15, 16 years old. You say, fuck the jock life. I'm going rock and roll.
I'm hanging up the jock.
And you start playing more music, focusing on being a bass player, going into bands, or what was the plan?
So my and I was really fortunate with just kind of the attention that my parents or just the focus they kind of put into helping me get into music. So they got me going in, there's sort of this like jazz combo thing that would happen in Des Moines. Mm-hmm. So I would drive in like once a week, and it's sort of like there's a teacher, and then you get grouped up with a bunch of other musicians, and you work for like 6 months on just learning charts and learning songs. And then a couple times a year you do like a little performance in like a little coffee shop kind of thing. So that was a really good way for me to kind of just figure out how to play music with other people, you know? Mm-hmm. So that was kind of my beginning, was doing that. And then, you know, I start like the garage band, and you play like Nirvana and and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And kind of played in just a few little shitty little garage bands around Iowa. And then I moved to Orlando after I graduated. I went to school at Full Sail. Uh-huh.
As a musician, thinking you were going to be a musician, or?
Well, I think that I knew that I wanted to be involved in music somehow. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I just knew that it needed to be music. Yeah. And I think another shout out to my parents with kind of pushing me down some sort of a path that had maybe a good a better exit than trying to be like a musician. They're like, so what can you do where you can maybe have a little bit more stability and be able to pay the bills a little bit better than the typical musician? So they found some recording schools, and I was like, yeah, man, recording engineer sounds pretty awesome. I really like music or making music, and I think that'd be something pretty great to learn. So there's not really any recording studios in Iowa that I could really find and go intern at.
Right.
So I just kind of took the plunge and found this school that was pretty reputable at the time, and went down there and just sort of dove in, and ended up really liking it a lot. And I think it was kind of good to sort of steer me down a certain path without having too much kind of other things like jumping in to distract my journey. Right.
And you had a good time at Full Sail? You felt like it was a good program?
Yeah, it's I think there's a lot of people that go there, and I think honestly, you get out of it kind of what you put into it. Yeah. A lot of the people that went there, the time that I went there was there was just a lot of partying going on, and not a lot of kind of school type of stuff. A lot of people go and they're like, oh, I'm going to be a producer and make fat beats. Right. And so this school will let me do that. And then they just kind of go there and fuck around the whole time.
Yeah.
So there was a point like when I graduated, it kind of had a bad reputation for a while. I haven't really followed it much in the last probably 5 or 6 years. But there are a lot of people that would come out of that school that wouldn't have any idea, what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
So they would get hired at a job and then make fools of themselves. And so people started to kind of think of it as like a more of a negative thing to have on your resume.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's gotten better more recently, but yeah, I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with this?
Well, just talking about sort of switching gears, getting into recording engineering, going down that path.
Yeah.
And as opposed to being the musician, I guess. Finding something that might be a little bit more long-term and lucrative.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it kind of gave me some structure, and I was still playing music, while I was going there. That's kind of when I was playing in my like hardcore metal bands, and went and did like van tours and all that kind of fun stuff. And then after I got out of school, I spent just a couple years just playing and driving around in rusty vans, and then I ended up moving out to Nashville, and I had a really great opportunity. And I moved out to Nashville with a band that I was playing in, and we kind of disbanded after we got out there and split up. And then I had a really great opportunity to go work at Blackbird studio.
Yeah.
That's in Nashville, which is pretty widely known, kind of if you're in the studio world.
Oh yeah.
So that was a really badass experience, and I got to meet. So John McBride runs the studio. He's Martina McBride's husband, and he's also very tied in with the kind of audio world. Mm-hmm. He's a kind of a big dog when it comes to sound stuff. So he kind of became a mentor for me while I was there, and I spent about, I think, maybe like 6 to 8 months working there. Not a super long time. But I got a pretty good grasp of just kind of the industry, and got some good insight on it that I hadn't really gotten to see before. Mm-hmm. And I kind of started to question if studio stuff was really what I wanted to do. 'Cause it was kind of around the time when, like 2000, 2009, 2010, it's kind of when all the big studios kind of started to struggle, and with all the advancement of technology and people able to make stuff in their basement. So the time that I was in Nashville, I saw several pretty big studios kind of shut down, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit. I was like, man, I don't know if this is going to be like the right choice. So I just started exploring other possibilities and other avenues. And John McBride, as I said, is pretty big in the live sound world as well. Yeah. So he mixes all her records, and he goes out and mixes front of house for her when she tours also. So he's tied in really well with Clair Bros, which is a pretty big audio company. And I kind of started to express these feelings towards him, and he was like, "Oh, well, I can make a few phone calls and get you a job, right away with Clair if you're interested." And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely," And I didn't really know much about Clair. I knew that they were like the biggest audio company in the world, and I knew that they did like the Rolling Stones and U2 and all these giant tours. Yeah. So I was like, "Hell yeah, I'm gonna go tour with Rolling Stones. Let's do this." So the timing worked out really well, and he was able to introduce me to some of the like big shots at Clair, and they basically offered me a position working for the company, but I had to move up to Lidditz, which is kind of where their headquarters is. And so this is an interesting story. I love telling this story to people. This is a crazy story. So I spent all my money moving up to Lidditz, left Nashville, left my cool gig at Blackbird Studio. I get up there, I'm all amped up. I'm just kind of young and stupid. I think I was maybe 21 21 or 22. And I get up there and I'm all ready to go. And the way that I got the job, I think, was kind of unusual. It was an unusual process compared to how people normally get hired, just because I kind of knew John, and I think he kind of pushed me through a little bit faster than most people would do.
Yeah.
So I get up there and I had to take a physical just for like the insurance and for the company and everything. And I wasn't worried about anything. And I knew there was probably going to be a drug test, and I wasn't really worried about that as well, because I had, back in the day, I like smoked a little bit of pot. I was never really big into drugs, but I would hang out and kind of smoke a little bit every now and then, nothing crazy. But when I had moved to Nashville, I had kind of, I had held back and stopped all that because I was just serious about trying to get a good job.
Yeah.
So I do the physical, they check all my back and all that stuff. It's all good to go. And then I had to do a hair follicle test, and I had no idea what that even was. I didn't even know that was a thing. And I had taken like a urine test maybe a couple months before that for something else, and had passed, and everything was cool. So I wasn't worried about it. So I get a call I do this hair follicle test, and I get a call from Clair like the day before I'm supposed to start my sort of training. They do like a 6-month training, which is why I had to move up there. And they're like, "Hey man, so we had like THC showed up on this drug screen. So I'm sorry, but we can't hire you. You can't work here." And it just kind of like blew my mind. It just totally caught me off guard. And so I learned that when you do a hair follicle test, it's I think like every inch of hair that you have represents like 3 months worth of time. And of course, I'm like rock and roller dude, and I have hair down to my shoulders. So I kind of put myself in a bad spot. So I'm up there and I'm stuck. And I'm like, shit, what am I going to do now? This is it. It totally just kind of destroyed my whole world.
Everybody's got to go through this up there?
Yeah. And which also kind of blew my mind, because obviously living up there, I met tons of people that worked at Clair, and they all partied like rock stars. Yeah. So I spent a lot of time just figuring out, or trying to think about if there was something that I did or said, and maybe they were just using this as an excuse, and it kind of like fucked me up for a while. Sure. It kind of like messed with my self-esteem. And, but I just from talking to people that work there now, like I'm pretty sure it was just an insurance thing. Yeah. I think in order for them to get you on their insurance, you have to pass this screen. And then after that, it's kind of whatever. I don't think they're doing a regular drug screen on people. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have very many people working there.
Exactly.
So I spend like a month just trying to figure out what to do,
You're just living in Lidditz, PA.
Yeah. I'm like, there's nothing. There's Amish people, and there's just kind of nothing going on. Clair Brothers, that's the only thing you do when you go to Lidditz.
And Rock Lidditz wasn't even up then, was it?
Oh no, yeah, this is before all that.
Wow.
So
you couldn't do anything. They couldn't hire you to do anything. Sit in the shop and fix speakers. Man,
I went back and forth with them for several weeks, just trying to plead my case. And I went and I went and cut all my hair off. I was like, I didn't even know that this was going to be a thing. Like nobody even told me that this was going to happen. It all kind of surprised me. So I went and cut my hair off, and I paid for another hair follicle test out of my own pocket to kind of show to them. And I, again, I think it's just part of their protocol. I think that they weren't able to really bend it enough to make it work for me. Yeah. And on top of that, I'm just kind of a young idiot who I'm sure I kind of went about it probably not the most professional way. Right. With just whatever I said or whatever I emailed to them. I probably just sounded like some stupid kid. Yeah. So I don't hold any grudges for any of that, Yeah. I get it. And And so the reason I kind of like telling this story is because I think that it actually worked out in the best way possible. Because I was up there, I didn't know what I was going to do. And I just started getting on Google, trying to figure out like, what else can I do now that I'm here? And I'm not able to leave because I kind of spent all my money to get up there.
Yeah.
So I find this kind of smaller kind of regional company that's called Allusions Sound and Lighting. And they are in Ephrata, which is just outside of, it's not too far away from Lidditz. And so I went over there and, kind of gave him my brief background history, and I'm sure I bullshitted quite a bit just to try to get into the door. And sure enough, they brought me right in, and they just kind of threw me in the water. They're like, I think the first show that I did with them was they did a lot of kind of lighting, and I'm trying to remember if they did any video stuff as well. But yeah, it was mostly audio and lighting. So I think the first gig I did was like a Kenny Rogers concert, and they had me like running the lighting console, and I just had no idea what the hell I was doing. I'm just like hitting bump buttons, just like making stuff light up, just having like the best time ever. Yeah. So kind of what I learned is that, most of the time when people go through Clair, they can spend years just kind of building cables. Right. And sometimes it kind of takes a while to climb up the ladder because the ladder is so huge at that place because it's such a big company. So I think that I kind of lucked out in joining up with this much smaller company where they just kind of kicked me right in, and I just kind of had to figure it out. And I think that I learned a lot faster. Yeah. And I think that, I was mixing bands after I had only, worked there for a few months. They kind of gave me like a quick little rundown of how it all works. And I just kind of started paying attention and asking questions, and I just kind of was able to figure it out pretty quickly. So I always go back and think like, man, what would have happened to me if I would have gotten into Clair, and like, who knows? Right. It could have been a totally different, journey for me.
Right. Absolutely, man. And were you mixing front of house or right into monitors or what?
I think
everything.
Probably, yeah, just kind of everything. I think, I think it was mostly monitors, and I remember like this was kind of right around when digital consoles were kind of starting to become a bigger thing. And they had all analog consoles when I got in there, which again was great because you can learn signal flow quite a bit better on that sort of a thing without a bunch of like screens and menus and pages that you have to go through. So I remember they got like their first Yamaha M7 digital console, and I thought that was like the most bitchin' thing ever, and I was so excited to get on it and learn all about it. And now it's just kind of like people like kick it into the lake. Nobody wants one of those things now, but but back in the day it was like the greatest thing.
Yeah, you cut your teeth on it.
Yep, totally.
It's an important piece of gear for you.
Yep.
That's awesome, man. That's a pretty incredible journey, and it's funny you talked about that time in 2009 or 10 when big studios were closing and the technology caught up, people could do this stuff.
Yep.
A lot smaller and whatnot. And you look at like Billie Eilish winning recently and everyone making a big deal that she's doing it in her bedroom, right? They cut that album in their bedroom. It's like, yeah, people have been doing that for 9-10 years already.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's like it's been happening. It's just kind of a funny thing. I mean, the technology, like you said, it's there, man.
Yeah. And I saw there was a kind of a viral video that was floating around that I think was Tom Lord Algae. Yeah. Who kind of went on this rant on, you'll have to help me remember.
I shared it.
All what he said. Yeah. But he's like, man, who gives a shit? Like,
good music is good music.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what all the tricks and, it's all just a bunch of smoke and mirrors anyways. Right. Like, you can make a good product, and if you can do it in your bedroom, then more power to you.
Right, exactly.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome to hear from a guy like that saying that kind of shit, for sure.
Yep.
For sure.
Definitely.
And then it looks like you popped out to Hollywood at some point after that.
Yeah. So I spent maybe like 2 or 3 years working in Pennsylvania, and then I got an opportunity to go work on a cruise ship for Celebrity Cruise Lines. So that was just kind of another thing where I was like, man, I have no idea what this is going to entail, but it sounds kind of badass. Like,
yeah.
I'll go live on a cruise ship for 6 months. So they hired me to go like mix the audio in the theater at this, or to kind of work as one of the audio crew.
Yeah.
For Celebrity. And so I jumped right on it and flew down to, I think, Miami, which is where I hopped on the boat. And I was like, all right, here we go. I'm going to be on this thing for 6 months. And it only took about 2 weeks for me to realize that I had just made a terrible decision. I was like, man, I am not a cruise ship person. This is going to be brutal.
Yeah.
So
did you stick it out?
Yeah, I did. I did the whole 6 months.
Wow.
and I learned a lot from doing it, but I learned that it's kind of this whole other universe and realm of people.
Yeah.
Like the people that work in the cruise industry, you're either in it or you're not. There's not really a lot of in between.
Right.
And if you're in it, you're like fully in it, and you get a storage unit, and you like sell your apartment, and you just hop around on cruise ships, and that's kind of the whole deal. And a lot of people that I met, they would start relationships and marry into other people that would work on cruises, and they would I think that was one thing that the company was kind of cool about is if you were married to another employee, they would kind of set your contracts up so you could work on ships together, and you could like stay in the same cabin together and that kind of thing. But yeah, it was not my vibe, just not my thing. It was just kind of Groundhog's Day every day. It's just like the same shit over and over again, the same shows. And it didn't take long for me to kind of start to bum on it. But
I'm sure. I mean, I've had other guests on the show that did some time on cruise ships.
Yeah.
And the positive that they take away is that because you are in such a sort of confined, your experience is confined, right?
Yes.
Not just your quarters, your living and working quarters, but the whole thing. And gear wise, you're kind of stuck like having to figure it out with what you got.
Yeah.
And make it work until you can get to the next thing, next port or whatever, and try to get something fixed or whatever.
If,
but so I imagine
something goes down, then you gotta fix it because you don't have anything else because you're in the middle of the ocean.
Right. And you don't have an extensive, crew or shop or whatever to sort of call on and be like, oh, that guy will fix it. Like, you're the guy. You're gonna be doing it.
Yeah,
you
totally.
got to figure it out.
Yeah, so. And I'm not knocking the gig. Like, I know a lot of really great, I know a lot of really awesome people, and I still keep in touch with quite a few friends that I had met doing it. That that's just kind of what they like. But it's everybody kind of has their own little their own little tastes and flavors that they're into, and it wasn't for me. I think a big part of it is I just got bored really, really quickly. If I'm not able to kind of grow and evolve and try new kind of exciting, weird things, then I start to get a little like, I start to get anxiety. Yeah.
I want to jump ahead just a little bit. We talked a little bit at SIR Hollywood, and then from looking at your resume from SIR, you go right to Sarah Bareilles, and then it just kind of, it just launches from there into straight work. And I'm just curious because, again, this happens a lot with people. You're at SIR for a couple of years, right? And then you jump to Sarah. I'm curious, was she an act that came through SIR or somehow and was like, hey, that guy's kind of cool. Why don't you come on the road with us? Go pack your shit and be back here tomorrow, and you're going out. Was it that sort of thing for you?
Well, it was similar to that. She did come through to do her rehearsals when she would come through there. But I had a really good buddy that I got in, that I got to be really good friends with. His name's Chris Masrisi, and he's actually, I don't know if you've ever heard of Big Fat Snare Drum. He is he's like the big fat snare drum guy. He started this company a few years ago that's kind of blown up. But it's just this device that drummers use that kind of dampens the drums. But he's worked with her pretty extensively for at least like the last decade, I'd say. And I just kind of got in really good with him, and it's everybody kind of has the same story. You just meet somebody and they need somebody for a gig, and you're around, and they're like, "Hey, you think you could handle this?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So, that was one of my. I'm trying to think if I had done any touring stuff before that. I think that there might have been. There's this artist named Matt Carney, and I think I went out and did some. I think that might have been like one of my first tours, kind of as a typical tour. But the Sarah thing popped up, and it was perfect because I had gotten pretty good at using this Midas Pro 2 console, which is what she wanted to take out on the road with her, and that's what SIR had as well. Mm-hmm. So, I'd spent just tons of time learning that thing and knew all the ins and outs of it. So I didn't look like an idiot walking up and not really knowing how to get around on the console right away. Yeah. And it was cool, man. And it was,
when did you start focusing? I mean, you did monitors for her, stage management.
Yeah.
When did you start focusing on monitors in particular though?
I don't know. And honestly, I don't know if I would even say that that's like a focus for me. I've always kind of been just into just mixing. Yeah. And you can kind of see on my resume too, that I hop around quite a bit, going back and forth between monitors and front of house. It just kind of,
but it's funny. It's funny that it's not your thing and you just picked up the Parnelli Award for it.
Oh yeah, I know. Right. Yeah. Well, honestly, I think a big part of doing monitors doesn't really have a lot to do with mixing. I think that, a big part of it is the psychology and sort of learning and understanding how to communicate with the artists that you're working with. And, man, like I've walked into so many monitor gigs where and the monitors sound completely fucked, and it's just like I'm just like, what is going on? But it's like what they've gotten used to, and I've learned my lesson from this as well, where I'll kind of come in and I'll try to make it all sound proper, I'll try to make it sound just like a good sounding mix, and then they'll listen to it and it's not what they're accustomed to, and they freak out and they're like, man, what did you do? It's all crazy sounding now. And I'm like, okay. And I like reload the old show file. Yeah. And it's usually kind of a very slow process of getting them to, just figuring them out and figuring out kind of what their needs are.
Right. Then dialing back what they had and try to give them something.
Yeah, man. But that's just kind of an example of most of my experiences with doing monitors. It's all just kind of psychology. Mm-hmm. And I guess that I've gotten pretty good at kind of figuring out how to communicate and do that with people. Not to say that I'm not, not to dog on my mixing abilities. Right. Because I think that I like to imagine that I've kind of have been able to figure that out pretty well as well. But
even though you like to float around, as you say,
yeah. So
what seat are you most comfortable in, though? Out front, or side of the stage?
I get more joy out of mixing front of house. Okay. I think just because I've always been kind of a creative, artistic kind of person. Yep. And it's like I said, man, sometimes when you're mixing monitors, it doesn't really have anything to do with your artistic ability. It's more of your ability to give the artist what they want. Yeah. And make them feel comfortable and make them feel like give them some sort of consistency, Yeah. As opposed to mixing front of house where you want it to sound bitchin'. You want it to be like just an awesome sounding thing to a bunch of random people who might not have ever, heard it before.
Yeah.
They want it to sound like the record, or they just want it to sound awesome.
When you start a new gig with a new artist, musician, whatever, what are some of the, what's your, day one? What's your thing? You ask a lot of questions. You just load up, the old show file that the previous guy or gal left for you and just let it run and see how they do. Do you sort of get in there with the band early on and start asking questions, or what do you do?
Yeah, I'd say day one, I'm very just in the shadows, just observing and just kind of soaking it all in, and just trying to get a good grasp of the vibe and just kind of try to get everybody figured out. I try like the first few monitor gigs that I had, I would try to be more aggressive. And I'd be like, oh, I know that this is going to sound way better, so let's do this. And,
right.
And, it's like I said, that kind of will freak people out, and it might not be, like something that sounds good is subjective. It's not like there's not a written law to what sounds good.
Right.
Everybody kind of has different opinions and perspectives and different ears.
Yeah.
So, I'll spend a lot of time just trying to kind of assess the situation and see what I'm working with. And I hate having to jump in on other people's show files, because I'm very meticulous and particular about just kind of my workflow and the way that I like to do stuff. So, if it's the sort of thing where they've worked with somebody for a long time and they've gotten super comfortable and accustomed to the way that it all sounds, then I'll start out with the old show file if I'm able to, and I'll kind of just make very small, very careful kind of baby steps on adjusting things and changing things around so it kind of better suits the way that I like to work. And it's all about baby steps.
So in terms of that, you're talking more workflow for you at the desk as opposed to like sonically what someone's hearing in their wedges or their in-ears, yeah?
Yep, exactly. And if I'm hearing things that I think kind of sound a little insane, then I'll have a conversation about it, and I'll try to explain as much science as I can without being too without just kind of confusing people. If there's like certain frequency things that are going on, and I'm like, well, if we did this and cut these frequencies out, then that kind of might help add a little bit more clarity on this other thing. I'll just kind of, it's like I said, man, I'll just take it slow. And the, usually I'm able to get it to I kind of have an end goal of where I want it to be and where I think it'll sound really good. And it's just kind of navigating that journey of getting it there. And then usually, in the end, once you get it there, and then you can have a day where you can kind of say, hey guys, you want to listen to how it used to sound, like compared to how it sounds now. And then when you're able to do that and they're like, holy shit, like, wow, whatever you did is amazing. Like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you feel good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool. So when did you feel, like I said earlier, right? We got Queens of the Stone Age, Foo Fighters. Some of these are tech gigs. Iggy Azalea, some big names, John Fogerty on here. When in your work times thus far did you feel like, I'm fucking doing it? This is fucking happening.
Yeah, man. I think it all kind of started to sink in probably kind of when I made my move out to LA. And like right away I got a job at SIR in Hollywood and kind of worked in the stages department doing that kind of stuff. But, coming from Iowa and then like, Amishville, Pennsylvania to getting out to LA, and then just having all of these huge epic bands that I've always loved growing up, just kind of being around and just kind of getting to soak it all in. I think that was when I kind of realized I was like, wow, this is awesome. This is really cool. Like, I'm really glad that I'm here doing this right now.
Yeah.
And I still get that feeling. I haven't completely become like a jaded old
no, definitely
crusty.
not. No, and I'm certainly not suggesting like, that you've capped out or anything. It's more just like, especially coming off of the experience, with Clair and sort of rebooting, and I can see, going to work for a smaller company and just jumping right in. I mean, you definitely progressed. You could progress a lot faster, which you did. But again, back to the resume, it's not like you languished for years first, in van tours.
Yeah.
You jumped in pretty good, pretty high.
Yeah. As far as kind of as far as my like audio mixing career goes, I think it was pretty cool to have the opportunity to go to SIR, where it's sort of a melting pot of everything. And, in LA, it's one of the, probably like one of the top 3 popular recording facilities that is in Los Angeles. Yeah. So you meet all kinds of people, you learn all kinds of things, and I feel like the turnaround time for employees that work there is pretty it's pretty short, because it's hard to go, when you're making like an hourly wage, to having somebody be like, hey, you want to come out and do this tour and make this cool weekly salary, which is way more than kind of what you're used to making. It's hard to say no to that.
Sure.
And I think it happens there a lot. So
absolutely,
it's a good kind of brooding ground for touring people.
Yeah, and even just the opportunity to get out on the road.
Yep, exactly.
That's where you're going to learn the shit. One of the things on this resume, if we go down here to additional skills, cruise psychologist and vibe maintenance. Is this was this a tongue-in-cheek sort of addition to your skills, or is this like?
Yeah, it's kind of a joking kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, I always find myself kind of being the sort of being like the level-headed one who kind of keeps all of the drama under control. Yeah. With a lot of these tours that I've been on. Maybe it's from kind of growing up in like small town Iowa. I don't know if that's part of it. Most of the people that I meet that are from the Midwest are kind of laid back and a little bit more, just not as aggressive and emotional about stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I think that I usually I'm that guy. I'm just kind of the one that everybody comes and complains to. And then I'm like, it's not that bad. It could be a lot worse. Yeah. So I thought that would just kind of be funny to throw on there.
That's good stuff. It is all about vibe out there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I said, you're moving in with a whole bunch of roommates that you have to spend 24 hours a day with, You're really only working a few hours out of the day. Most of the time you're at airports or hanging out on the bus. So yep, it's kind of all about just keeping the good vibes. As
you gear up for the Rage gigs, 40 dates, possibly more, you've done other big tours. What's going in Austin's bag? What do you got to have with you? What do you take out there with you? You a reader?
Which bag? Like my luggage?
Yeah, you a reader? You like to read out there? What's your deal?
I've got oh, you know what? Hey, hit pause for a second. I need to plug my laptop in.
Oh, no problem, dude.
I just realized that I forgot to plug the power in.
No problem.
Give me a second.
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that, man.
It's all good, dude. It's all
just
good.
Gotta make sure the juice is flowing.
I hear you. Cool.
All right, so yeah, I think it's kind of. I feel like every year it gets more and more minimal with all the stuff that I carry around with me. I used to just have all kinds of stupid video games and I don't know. It's gotten to the point now where I'm pretty content with, I'll usually bring my Bluetooth headphones. So I'll usually have a book, and I'll usually have my sleeping like mask thing.
Yep.
That I can put on to block out all the light. And that's kind of it, man. I don't roll with a whole lot. I'm usually able to stay pretty entertained with just my just like my phone. I can watch Netflix and stuff on my phone if I get bored.
Yeah. After a show, are you do you like to just chill, tune it, no music, or you throw something on? Do you throw something on completely opposite to the type of music that you've been listening to or working with all day?
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of different. I feel like every tour kind of has a different sort of like energy that like it takes a different sort of energy out of you while you're working throughout the day. But yeah, most of the time we'll get back to the bus and maybe put on like a movie or, and it kind of depends on the sort of crew that is out on the tour as well. Some people kind of like to party a little bit more. So we'll have maybe some beers and whatnot. And then, a lot of tours I've been on the last couple of years has been pretty laid back and pretty quiet. We haven't had any like crazy party people out there. So we'll usually just kind of lay low and just kind of chat and hang out.
Yeah.
Maybe make a little late night snack to eat. And, it's pretty boring. It's probably not
it's not as glamorous.
It's not like the crazy rock and roll lifestyle that most people think that it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's shifted. It's shifted, as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say so.
Who's out there that you would love to mix for?
Ooh, that's a good question. Man, I've always really liked this band called Thrice, and I always thought it would be really cool to go out and mix front of house for that band because they have a lot of kind of interesting, unique things that they do on their records as far as like effects and different kind of sounding vibes that they do on all their records. That would be a really exciting band for me to go mix. When I worked with Dawes, I mixed monitors for them, and they are probably like one of my favorite bands. I would love to go mix front of house for Dawes.
Yeah.
I love those guys a lot, and they have a really awesome vibe too. They're super fun to hang out with. They're
coming through at the Capitol Theater in Portchester with Phil Lesh and friends.
Oh, nice. Do you know any of those guys? Have you met Tito or any of the people on their crew?
Not on their crew, no. But I know Brian Rashap, who is Phil's bass tech.
Oh, okay.
And cool. I've reached out to him, so I might get to go see him that night. Yeah, that they're all playing in March. I think it's March.
Yeah.
Good time. I've not seen them. I know their music pretty, decently well, and but I'd love to see them live and just see like that mix with Phil Lesh and friends. I think would be pretty cool.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't really lay in bed and think about like, oh man, I wish I could go mix this band. I'm just, I guess maybe I'm just kind of more in the moment or in the, I don't know. I'm just more focused on kind of the present than the future, I guess.
Yeah. That's cool. It's very Buddhist of you, Austin.
Yeah. As I do my downward dog.
That's it, man. Yeah. How do you take care of yourself out there? 40 dates coming up. What are you going to do to take care of yourself?
I need to figure something out, man. That's the hardest part of this whole thing is just being healthy. And, my wife always gives me a hard time because she's a fitness instructor and she's really into like all the yoga and the Pilates and that kind of stuff. And so I always feel bad when I go home and I've just like my gut's hanging out and I'm just feeling terrible. And she's like, "What did you do to yourself?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, it's hard." But yeah, I usually try to find some friends on the crew who are kind of in the same boat as me, where they sort of needs some support with getting out and go to the gym at the hotel and not eating pizza at, midnight.
Right.
And that kind of thing. So that'll probably be my big focus for this year, is just doing as much kind of workout stuff as I'm able to, and staying away from after show food, and just trying to, just eat healthy.
Yeah.
It's hard, man, because you work all day and as soon as there's some food in front of you, it doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
You just shovel it all in your mouth as fast as you can. And
right. Right.
Because you don't have probably the time to really sit down and enjoy the meal.
Yeah.
Also, you just kind of have to force it in there.
How long you been married?
I just got married last year.
Wow. How long you guys been together?
We've been together for just about 6 years.
All right. So she's used to this shit.
Oh yeah. Yep. Totally used to it. And we've done things, we've tried little things where she'll try to kind of help me out, with coming up with like little hotel room workout routines. And, I spent a couple years touring with Backstreet Boys, and we did, we were able to set this kind of cool thing up where we would set up like a FaceTime video kind of thing on a computer, and I would plug it into a TV, and she would do like yoga classes for the dancers that we had out on the tour, which she was super happy to do. Yeah. And so, I would get in there and get to do a little bit of yoga too, which would kind of help me out. But it was just kind of a cool little thing that we were able to put together. Yeah,
that's awesome. And it's a cool way for you guys to kind of connect, even though you're with the class, right? And
yeah, totally.
That's awesome, man. Do you guys have, you can't go more than 3 weeks, or if it's 3 weeks, you fly her out, or anything like that? Or is just
man, honestly, she's probably better at it than I am. I start to get a little like, I'd say between 3 and 4 weeks is kind of the mark when I'm like, man, I just miss being at home, Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's great. I've never met anybody that could probably put up with all this shit the way that she does. And, it's good to have somebody on your side who can kind of be your reinforcement and sort of, just help you along,
Yeah.
If you're having a bad day, it's so awesome to have somebody that can that you can talk to that can kind of lift you up and make you feel better.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Yep.
Well, congrats on your first year of marriage.
Yeah. Thanks.
I'm going to let you go here, 'cause I know you got stuff to do, dude, but we're going to end it on one of my favorite types of questions to ask.
Yeah.
The old time travel question here, Austin.
Oh yeah.
If you could go back to the long-haired, pot-smoking young kid sitting in Amishville.
My parents are going to love this.
Right? If you can go back to that guy who's just gotten off the phone with Claire, where they tell you, sorry, kid, we don't want no long hairs around here. No, you failed the drug test. We can't hire you. We know you just spent all this money to get up here, and you're stuck here in the Twilight Zone. What would you tell that kid?
Man, I think I get asked kind of maybe not the exact same question, but a similar question. It's just like, what advice would you give? And I think you just got to stick with it. You just got to keep going,
Yeah.
I went through so many years of bullshit where I'm, pushing cases and not getting paid squat, and you just kind of got to stick to your guns and just keep going. And, if you're a good person, and if you have a good outlook on life, then it'll all work itself out, and it'll kind of all happen.
Nice. I appreciate you doing this, man. It's been awesome to have you on, and hopefully we'll see you out there.
All right. Thanks.
Austin Schroeder, thank you so much for being on Roadie Free Radio. Folks, stay tuned. Next week, episode 162, we got Claire Murphy, guitar tech for Vance Joy, on the show. It's going to be a good one, man. During the week, you can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify, all as Roadie Free Radio. Check out the website, roadiefreeradio.com, and send me a note, because I want to hear from you. That's info@roadiefreeradio.com. And my friends, in the meantime, Y'all be safe out there. No roadies, no rock and roll.